Hey everyone. Hello, hello. How's everybody doing? Hello. I'm gonna wave. Nice, nice. Nice, nice. Amber Revolution's here. Very good, very good. Awesome. Awesome. Very cool. Awesome. Cool, cool. Great. Okay, so hey everyone. Today I am having a very special guest. It's Simon J. Wolff of the Morning Claret, also the author of Amber Revolution. This is a award-winning book about orange wines, the history of orange wines, the resurgence of orange wine in popularity. It also gives information about food pairings and top producers to choose from. So today, Simon and I are going to be talking, and we're going to be discussing like all things orange wine, his book, his Instagram lives. If you guys have questions, just go ahead and just put them in the comments area, because I always forget to check the little question box. So comments area for questions for Simon or myself. All right, so I'm gonna add Simon to the discussion. All right, where are you? Oops, I kind of messed that up. 1 second, guys. Oh my goodness, 1 second. Oh my goodness, why isn't this working? Why isn't this working? Hold on. Hold on. This is very annoying. Nope. All right. Why isn't this working? There we go. So we're going to connect with Simon right now. Gotta love the beauty of live programming. Never know what's going to happen.
Hey,
Amazing. Hello.
it works. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Yes. Yeah.
Sorry about that. For some reason, it wasn't letting me connect. It was very weird.
Oh, no problem. Well, this transatlantic linking stuff is still in its infancy, isn't it?
Yeah, probably.
Anyway, yeah.
Awesome. So how are you doing, Simon? This is like the first time we've ever spoken like face to face.
I know, which is awesome, actually. I think it's great, but it's funny. It took a global pandemic to make us do it. But no, I'm really excited about it. I'm happy. Yeah. So I'm all good. I mean, life here in Amsterdam is fairly relaxed, I have to say. We're in sort of semi lockdown. The sun is shining or shining, and we can get out. So I'm all good. And unlike you, for me it's the evening, so I'm already a few glasses in of something which looks like
Nice.
this.
It looks like this.
Oh, mine's cloudier than yours, I think.
Ironically, mine has no fining or filtration, which I thought was kind of crazy.
Okay, yeah, mine, I can definitely guarantee you mine doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, yeah.
So we have some people here that are joining that, you know what, I don't know if they've necessarily read your book or not. So without giving too much away, do you want to discuss a little bit about what Amber Revolution is and what topics people can expect to read?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, basically, the book that I wrote it's about the rediscovery of a style that just disappeared. And I think it's really interesting because if you think we have white grapes, we have red grapes, and we're all used to two types of wine that you can make from red grapes. We're all used to this idea that you can make a rosé wine where you don't use the skins, or you can make a red wine when you do. And we're all used to the idea that you can have a white wine where you take white grapes and you don't use the skins. But somehow we forgot for about 60 or 70 years that hang on a minute, you can also take those white grapes and make a wine with the skins. And somehow that just got totally phased out in all this kind of rush to welcome technology and make all this kind of squeaky clean white wine that we're all used to these days. We just forgot about days. We just forgot about how tasty wine made from white grapes that are fermented with their skins is. And so I wrote the book really to explain why did that happen and why did a bunch of the world want to bring this back? You know, why did they find it so important that they really fought all out and they said, hey guys, you know, we know you think this wine is crazy. We know you don't think it's the right way to make wine, but we believe it's authentic and it's what we should be doing. So that's what the book was about, really, the rediscovery of something that had really been lost.
Right. I absolutely. And now for people who don't know, who is kind of credited? Well, actually, who are like the two people that are kind of credited with bringing back skin contact white wines?
So I think there's two people in particular, and I think you're referring to the guys in Friuli Collio, Stanko Radikon and Joško Gravner. And these guys, you know, let it not be said that they were the first or the only ones, but they were the two people who put this style back in a bottle and back on our tables. They said, "Hang on a minute, actually, this is part of our tradition. This is part of how we always used to make wine in this is what we do. Why are we not still doing this? Why are we not celebrating this venerable traditional style?"
Right. I totally agree. Simon, I don't know if everyone on their end heard it, but like you completely cut out for that entire part.
Yeah, I see. Hang on a minute. Let me just check. You know what? Yeah, I see a reason why that might be happening. Just hang on one sec. Yeah, we had a small Wi-Fi outage.
Okay, no problem. I'm still here. Vino Bros, we are trying to get the Wi-Fi issue settled. So hang tight, please. In the interim, do you guys have any questions that we can ask? Any questions?
You hearing me better now, Amanda?
I hear you better. Yes.
Yeah, good.
The joys of Instagram Live. Absolutely, Morgan.
Yeah. Sorry about that. That's
Bring
my
back
bad.
Simon. We're bringing back Simon. Don't worry.
Am I back? Am I back or?
You're back.
Perfect. Yeah. We had a small Wi-Fi outage here in the afternoon, and I made the mistake of taking my phone off Wi-Fi. But now I'm reconnected. So.
Fantastic.
Shall I just? Shall I step back? Or?
Just repeat everything you just said because nobody
Okay.
got any of it.
Okay, I will do. So yeah, we were. Yeah, I think you were just saying to me like, who were the two guys who really sort of brought orange wine, who brought this style back? And I guess there's two people that we should credit more than anyone else, and they are, of course, Stanko Radikon and Joško Gravner. And the reason why those guys are important is that they weren't necessarily the first, they weren't necessarily the only people who were making this wine, but they were the people who really insisted and said, hey guys, this is something important, this is something we forgot, this is something that we all used to do in this part of the world. And why did we forget this? You know, why did we stop celebrating this kind of authentic tradition that we have here in Collio and in Slovenia? So they were the people that put this style back in a bottle, put it on the table, and they went all out and said, you know, we don't care if you think it's weird. This is actually something important. This is actually an old tradition. We want to celebrate it. We want to put it back in front of you. This is the wine that we're making.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's so amazing the wines that they were able to produce. Now, for people that don't know what grapes are produced in these regions, what are some of the grapes that Joško and Stan were working with?
So I guess if there's one grape variety that's more important than any other, then it would be Ribolla Jala. And the reason why Ribolla Jala is so important is a, first of all, it's indigenous to the Collio and the Slovenian part of Collio, which is Birchgebirge. But also the thing about Ribolla Jala that's so special is that the skins are super, super thick. So with Ribolla Jala, it's actually quite a challenge to get those grapes through a press. And therefore, it makes sense that you would want to skin macerate it, that you would want to skin ferment it. And that's what people always used to do way back when. So in a way, Ribolla Jala as a grape variety is tied in with the whole concept of orange wine and the resurgent, because that was the spark. That was the thing that Joško Gravner and Stanko Radikon really noticed. They're like, why doesn't our Ribolla Jala taste special? Why isn't it expressing everything that we know it's got to give? Because we're not skin fermenting it. So I think that grape variety above all else, so important. There are others, of course, Friulano, which used to be called Tokai Friulano, also very important variety that you find a lot in that region. But other than that, there's relatively few indigenous grape varieties. So you find a lot of Sauvignon Blanc, you find a lot of Chardonnay, you find a lot of Pinot Grigio. These are varieties that have been in that part of the world since Napoleon, but they're not quite as special as the indigenous varieties. Ribolla Jala has been probably in Collio for 1,000 years.
Yeah, yeah, and those are definitely some really beautiful, fragrant, nice body on them. I do love those grape varieties a lot. Now, there's another country in particular that you do mention in your book, and that's the country of Georgia. Can you briefly discuss their little journey back to skin contact wines without giving away too much in your book?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, the thing about Georgia's slightly different. What's really interesting about Georgia is you have to remember Georgia was part of the Soviet Union. Basically, Georgia was kind of taken over by the Soviet Union, and then it only gained independence in 1991. Georgia has always had, for as long as we know, certainly for many thousands of years, it has had this unique wine culture of making wine in buried amphoras, these large amphoras which are buried in the ground. But that whole culture, that whole tradition of making wine really went underground during the Soviet days, because in the Soviet Union it was all about mass-produced wine, and the main style that Russians like to drink is a semi-sweet wine.
Yeah.
So in a way, this kind of wonderful ancestral tradition in Georgia was almost lost, because there were just people were doing it in their homes, but it had almost disappeared. You certainly couldn't buy that style of wine, what we now talk about as amber wine. You couldn't buy that in a bottle. And it was really only after independence and in the early 2000s that people started to realize, when they started to get tourism and they started to get people traveling to Georgia, and they're saying, hang on, we read in a book somewhere that people used to make wine in amphoras here thousands of years ago. Any of you guys still do that? And like, yeah, hell yeah, we do that, but we didn't think that anybody cared. And then the world kind of woke up to the fact that actually this is something really special. And then the great thing was that I think the Georgians found their wine mojo again. And actually Gravner had a hand in that too, because Gravner was one of the very first. He visited Georgia in 2000, when you still had to go around with a pair of Kalashnikovs and armed guards and so on. And he was really one of the first people who went there and said, this is something super important. This is a great way to make wine. This is something that we've just lost in the West, that we didn't even know about. So I think Georgia has really kind of shown us all that you can go way, way back to a tradition. You can go back to a super simple, super old method of making wine, and it can still produce something that is delicious and unique, and something that people in every part of the world get excited about, even today.
Yeah, absolutely. Something else that is so special about Georgia is these quevries. I'm not saying it. It's now a UNESCO World Heritage Site, so it's important to the world, historically speaking.
That's absolutely correct. And I think they got the UNESCO. Some people are saying that it's hard to hear me. Why is that?
Yeah. It's a
Do I
little,
need to...
but it's not as bad as before. Before it was like full robot.
Okay, weird. Okay. Because I have a headset on, but I'm not quite sure what I can do to improve that.
Right.
Probably nothing, but
Probably
yeah.
nothing. Yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
Okay.
Now, I have another question. So,
Mhm.
in the United States, we have a tendency to color code our wines. Red, white, rosé, and now orange. I know that over in Friuli and Georgia, they call it amber wine. They don't even know what you're talking about if you say orange wine, like some of like the older people. So what are your thoughts on people calling amber wine orange wine?
Yeah, I mean, this in a way, this is one of the big problems with this category is that people have such big arguments about the terminology, and we can get lost in the whole amber or orange thing. I think the point is this, that amber is to talk about amber wine maybe makes sense in the Georgian context, because these are wines that are skin fermented in the qvevris, in the buried amphoras, sometimes for 6 months. They do go a very dark color. You know, they go a darker color than this quite often.
Like almost,
so amber,
yeah.
So I mean, so amber is maybe a sensible word to use. It's also coincidentally the preferred term of Joško Gravner. But I think in our modern paradigm of how we describe wines, if we talk about red, white, and rosé, then orange kind of makes sense. You know, it's let's just make it simple. Let's talk about relatively primary colors. So I think orange is a kind of easy way to describe this. And a lot of people say, well, orange wine's a stupid name because then everyone will think that it's made of oranges. But I mean, by that, if you think that, I mean, how many people think rosé wine is made from roses? I mean, the point is, all of these terms they're convenient ways to refer to things. And actually, when you really look at them, they're not really describing color. They're more describing the technique, actually. If you look at the difference between red wine and rosé wine, some red wines are really light. You know, if you have a Pinot Noir from Alsace, it's very, very light. But when we talk about red wine, we're saying it's skin fermented. When we talk about rosé wine, we're saying it's not skin fermented. So for me, it's the same with orange and white. I think orange wine is a convenient way to signify that we're talking about a skin fermented wine made from white grapes.
Yeah, definitely. That's a nice way of kind of explaining the classification. It's like sometimes, I mean, you already know this. There's like a huge debate. Like some people are like, oh no, call it skin contact. And I kind of find myself calling it skin contact too, just so there's like kind of like that delineation. I'll like go into the store and I'll be like, do you have any skin contact whites? And if they're well versed in wine, they actually know what I'm talking about.
And I think that's fine. I think the problem with talking about skin contact is it slightly winds me up when people say, oh, I like skin contact wines. And I'm like, okay, so you like red wines. You know, red wine is a skin contact wine, and orange wine is a skin contact wine. They both are. So for me, it's not a precise term, and that's why I think we need a separate term. So I don't care whether people prefer amber or orange. Either's fine with me, but I think it makes sense to have a term which clearly specifies what you're talking about. And the thing is, sure, you can say, do you have any skin fermented white wines? That's 4 words. Or you can say, do you have anything orange? You know, that's 1 word.
Yeah, that's true.
It's
especially
easy.
like in New York, you don't have time to say those extra words. You're just like orange
Exactly.
wine.
No, exactly. So it's just easier. So I don't understand why people want to make it so difficult and why they want to get so technical, because most people don't think about wine in a technical way. So let's not make it difficult. So I actually think, you know, I didn't invent the term orange wine, but I look around, I see that it's the most popular way. If you look on restaurant wine lists, if you look even at wines that from maybe Slovenia or Austria or so many places, I've even seen wines from Georgia, by the way, that say orange wine on the label. I think people are just gradually realizing this is the easiest, simplest term that we have. So, let's just get over it, and keep it simple.
Get over it, right?
Yeah.
Call it orange wine, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
Exactly. Awesome. So in your book, you also tell people about a whole list of producers to try, as well as food and wine pairing
Mhm.
suggestions. Do you maybe want to name some of those producers for people who are new to skin contact orange wines and some of the food pairings so they know how to pair it?
Sure. I mean, the thing about food pairing, actually, which I really like about orange wine, is that they're so versatile. The thing is, these are wines. You have structure, you have texture, so you have this textural element that you, by and large, don't have so much in white wine. But you often have the freshness, you have the acidity that you would expect in white wine. So it's a brilliantly versatile wine style. And in my experience, you
Yes.
can pair these wines with so many different things. And
So
I
many.
actually, yeah, and increasingly, I don't even get hung up about it. I mean, I think about it a bit. I think if I'm cooking, I like to cook. So if I cook Asian food, if I cook food which is very spicy or has a lot of aromatic flavorings like Thai cuisine,
Yeah.
then sometimes I'm thinking, let's go for an aromatic, skin fermented grape variety, something where I've got some tannins just to clean the palate, but I've also got all that kind of big, bold aromatic flavors, and I know they're going to keep up with the spiciness in Asian cuisine. So that works really well. A pairing that I love is when you have really rich, kind of fatty pork-based cuisine, which is traditional to, for example, Emilia-Romagna in Italy. Orange wines are really your friend in that situation. And you imagine you have this big, fatty, rich food. You want a wine that is going to clean your mouth and make you feel fresh again. So a wine with acidity is good, and a wine with tannin is good. And there you go. Orange wine has both of those. So I think they're super versatile. And if you look at macerated ribolla-giallas, the classic orange wines from Gravna, Radikon, Princic, Blazic, I could name many others. These are just perfect with quite meaty, fatty dishes. It's the same way that, like, in the past, people always used to think about Bordeaux wine. There's a reason why everyone always used to say claret, red Bordeaux wine goes with lamb. You have a fatty meat, you want some tannins. It's cleansing,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you also need complexity. You need something profound to keep up with the cuisine. So this is where orange wine just ticks every box.
Yeah, it really does take, I think it's like a star player in food and wine pairings. Have you ever had something called chicharrón?
Called,
Chicharrón.
it sounds familiar. So you're talking about a food or a wine?
It's a food, yeah. It's kind of like fried
Hmm.
pork belly, I guess. It's like pork fat.
Ah,
It's really yummy.
okay. Sounds great.
um, yeah,
It sounds like what we would call crackling. So we would call it pork crackling, where you take the fat off the pork belly and then you crisp it up.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think
So
like
yeah, I
that
mean,
would
I've
be good.
definitely
That would be really good with like an amber wine, some chicharrón or
totally,
crackling,
yeah,
as we call it.
yeah. I mean, yeah, totally. So what are you drinking? I see a question in the chat here, and I think it's a fair question. Maybe
Yeah,
shall we reveal what we're both drinking?
sure. So I'm actually drinking one of, not the first, but one of the first orange wines that I like completely fell in love with. This is one of my all-time favorites. So
Hmm.
this is Il Senso
Hmm.
Travuar. It is a Sicilian skin contact wine. This is their 2015 vintage.
Nice. Hmm.
It's a Catarato grape. Spends about 20 days on the skin. They are certified organic, practicing biodynamic. They use indigenous yeasts. I mean, I'm so obsessed with this wine. Like, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about when I say this, but it has like notes of church spices. So like frankincense, myrrh. I get like orange rind on it. There's like chamomile notes. Like these are not
Cool. Very good.
Typical white
I'm
wine.
losing you a bit.
No, you're losing me.
Yeah, sorry, I'm having a little bit of a glitch there. So, but I heard most of what you were saying about the wine. Sounds delicious.
Okay.
So, yeah, yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah, but it is it is delightful, and I also highly recommend if you do drink it, make sure you decant it.
Hmm.
There's no fining, there's no filtration, believe it or not,
Hmm.
as clear as it is, which I find amazing. And
Hmm.
this wine spends time on lees up until bottling, so it's
Hmm.
amazing.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, that's great. So I am drinking. Let's try to. So this is from Cantina Ribella, which is a producer in Lazio, in central Italy, very close to Rome. And this is a Saitole, which is a macerated blend of Malvasia and Trebbiano. It's a fantastic wine. I have to say, it's showing so well today. It's relatively short skin contact, only 3 days, and
Mhm.
it's just gorgeous. So as you can see, it's gone a very deep color, and it's just
Yeah.
full of lovely, ripe kind of almost peach and melon. It's so loaded with fruit, but then you have the texture and the structure on the finish. It's just gorgeous, really. I'm really having to hold myself back here, you know. So
Yeah. What are your thoughts on decanting with orange wines? Because I
I
feel
think
like it's like for a lot of them, it's like necessary.
I would agree. I mean, I think definitely, particularly younger orange wines. So one of the trends that I see is that some producers who maybe need to get their wine onto the market a bit quicker do tend to release the wines when they're a little bit too young. And in that situation, then decanting is always, I think, is always a great solution, or decanting, or carafing, as we sometimes say, where you're talking about, just getting oxygen into the wine, basically. So not so much worrying about sediment or anything like that, but more just thinking, how can I oxygenate this wine as fast as possible? So I think carafing or decanting is a great solution. I'd almost say it has more value for young wines, which maybe aren't quite as ready as they might be. Maybe still a bit gangly, a bit tannic.
Yeah.
I think for older orange wines, it really depends. I mean, once in a while you come across something where you can see it's just not singing and it needs a bit more oxygen. But
Yeah.
usually, if I'm opening up something that's 5, 10, 15 years old, then usually it's ready to go. Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing. Now, sometimes when people open up natural wines or even some of the skin contact wines, when you first open it up, there can be this like sulfur note to it. What are some
Hmm.
recommendations that you would give people to blow off some of that sulfur?
Very simple.
Yeah,
Simple.
yeah.
I
This
mean, yeah. I mean,
girl.
I definitely experienced that, and it's
Yeah,
funny again. I go back to way back when I used to love Bordeaux wines. I still kind of do actually, but that's a secret. We shan't talk about it. Um,
no, Bordeaux
but
is great though. Don't worry about it.
I
I
love
love
I
it.
love Bordeaux. But this was always a classic thing in Bordeaux. If you opened up a left bank claret, that was 15, 20 years old, people used to describe it as bottle stink.
Right.
Um, and this is definitely a thing. I mean, imagine that you've been squashed into a bottle for 20 years and then they just let you out. I mean, you're not going to smell of roses right off the bat, are you? You're going to take a little while to get your shit together. So
Oh
I
my
think
God,
it's
it would be like so smelly.
so I think we should give wines a little bit of space. Of course, when you just pop the cork, it takes a while, and I think some wines really do need oxygen.
Right.
Um, what I have noticed is that it doesn't usually take too long, and that's so I wasn't being facetious when I said do this. It really does help, and I think if there's some slightly stinky, sometimes aromas that people might associate with Brett or whatever, in my experience, often 5 or 10 minutes is more than enough to send it on its way.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. I just wanted it to come out of your mouth so people could hear it. I was thinking the same thing. I just wanted you to say it.
Oh, no problem. Well, there you go. I did. Yeah.
That is amazing. Okay, so I have
I saw someone asking about what were they saying? Someone was asking about Colio producers or something.
a.
Did you see that?
Yes,
Um,
Simon, what about some recommendations on wine trips in the Collio area?
yeah, but I think actually this is a loaded question because I think this is from Ivano. Now, in Ivano and I were actually in the Collio together 9 years ago, which was actually the trip on which I really discovered orange wine. So I think he's kind of inviting me to say something about that.
Uh,
It
okay.
was Ivano that asked that question, wasn't it? Did I? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think that the Collio is an amazing region, but uh, just very quickly, I think the thing to say about the Collio that most people don't focus on is that the Collio is actually a cross-border region. So part of it is Italian these days, and part of it is Slovenian, and it changes name when you go into Slovenia. So Collio means hill in Italian, and when you go into the Slovenian part, it changes its name to Brda, which also means hill. So the great thing is when you go to that part of the world, Oslavia, the village of Oslavia, where Radikon and Grabna and Princic and all these other people are, La Castellada, is particularly special. You have the opportunity to explore two countries at the same time, and I think this is one of the most special things you can do is just to enjoy driving around in between Italy and Slovenia, and you can take a road where you're crossing the border every few minutes, and you don't even notice these days, even though that border was the subject of two world wars.
Right.
So I think that's what I want to say really about that region, and I'm sure that Ivano will remember some of the stuff that we talked about the war history of that region. So yeah, and then I saw that Erica was asking about aging wines and what constitutes being too young. And I think all I would say about that is that if you're making a Gravner style wine, if you're making a really structured, complex orange wine with maybe a month or more of maceration, then I think sometimes this is the kind of wine that is just going to start coming into its own at maybe 5 years old. And some of these wines really want to drink them at 10 years old. I mean, Radikon released their wines when they're 6, 7 years old. And in my humble opinion, their wines are still too young when they release them. They have so much magic to show you when they're 10 years old.
Oh, they really, yes, they really do. Couldn't agree
So I
more.
think Yeah, so I think in terms of when is too young, but I mean when I see a lot of younger producers now, and there are economics in wine. When you're a winemaker and you don't have years of history and you don't have a huge cellar, you need to get your wine out there. But the problem is if you're releasing 2018 wines now and they're orange wines and they're structured, they're really not going to show everything that they have to give. So I would always urge people, if you need to buy the wine now, if you're worried it's going to sell out, or you can get hold of it now and it's 2018 or whatever, buy 2 bottles and put one right to the back of your
One in store.
cellar
Yeah.
slash cupboard slash entrance hall or whatever it may be. Just try to keep at least one of those bottles for another year or two, and you'll be amazed at the dividends that pays.
Yeah, definitely. I went to Raw Wine this past year, and I went to the Radicon seminar. And
Mm-hmm.
so, what's his name? The son. What is his name?
Sasha. Sasha.
Sasha.
Sasha.
Sasha. Yes.
Yeah.
So it was Sasha, and he was being interviewed by this guy from Heritage Radio. And
Mm-hmm.
we tasted through all of these amazing Radican wines all the way from the 90s. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, this is amazing. And I totally agree with you on how like they are truly something special when they get at least 10 years old, like at least 10 years of aging on them. I mean, it is like a different wine, but in a good way.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that it's weird. I mean, they start to come into their own. I mean, you have to remember as well. I mean, we're talking about wines that are made in a very hands-off minimal intervention type of way. And these are wines where we're not cosseting them or offering them any kind of protection. We're just letting them go their own way into the world.
Right.
And it's a little bit like human beings. I mean, I'm sure you're going to remember this, Amanda. You're a lot younger than I am, but I mean, when I was 20, I didn't have any idea what I was supposed to be doing.
No.
Nope. I mean, maybe I still don't, but that's another matter. But the point is, we take our time. We take our time to go through life, and we, as we become older, hopefully we become more stable. We become more complete. Perhaps more harmonious. And I think it's the same with wine. Wines, good wines, complex wines, serious wines, can really take a lot of time before they get to that zenith. Yeah. So I think it's important to remember. When you drink a wine that's 2 years old, why would you expect that to show anything terribly profound?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just a baby. Like sometimes I drink wine. Not necessarily orange wines, but I'm like, this wine is like literally just a baby.
Yeah, exactly. So I think with, and we have to make a difference here between maybe great wine and everyday wine. There are wines that you'll uncork and you're like, yeah, this is glue, this is easygoing, simple wine. It's beautiful. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. But a lot of the orange wines that probably you and I love are not in that category. They're fine wines that deserve to be aged and matured just as you might do for a Barolo or a Bordeaux or yada, yada, yada.
Absolutely. I could not agree with that analogy anymore. Like these wines, especially the ones like this one and Radikins and Gravners, they took a lot of time and effort and blood, sweat, and tears to make, and a lot of good luck as well. And it deserves respect. I think you got to respect the amber, orange, skin contact, whatever you want to call it, wine.
Totally, exactly. And again, it's like anything. I think you have to look at what you're dealing with. Is this a really serious, complex wine that I'm expecting the fireworks to detonate, or is this a simple, fresh wine that I just want to quench my thirst with? And they're different things. If you want the serious, complex wine, you need patience sometimes.
Yeah.
And if the winemaker didn't have the patience, or the winemaker didn't have the economic stability to release that wine when it was ready, you're going to have to do that job.
Absolutely. I have a few wines in my little wine fridge, my humble little wine, just waiting to be opened. Okay. I have another question for you. Now, I believe you said that on Sundays you're doing something special.
I am indeed, actually. Yeah, with all this lockdown stuff, I really wanted to do something to try to, I realized I've lost a lot by not being able to go to wine tastings and not meet winemakers around the world and get to chat with them, shoot the breeze, and taste their wines. So I'm trying to recreate the same thing with an Amber Revolution live session, which I'm doing here on Instagram every Sunday. So I'm doing it at it's 9 p.m. in the evening, and in New York it will be 3 in the afternoon. And every week, basically, I have 3 winemaker guests, and we just chat about what they're doing, and then anyone else who's online can also join. So I'm flipping the screen quite often and getting people involved. It's kind of a orange wine hangout, if you like. And this Sunday, I'm particularly excited because for the first time, I have a winemaker from California, which is Evan Lewandowski of Roof Lewandowski Wines. So he's going to be one of my guests, along with Valentina Pasalacqua and
Valentina?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, sorry, I'm having like a fangirl moment. I really like her wines, and I love all the adorable drawings on the bottles. Like her.
Oh right, yeah.
They're so cute. Oh.
Well, yeah. So she's going to be with me on Sunday, along with Evan and also Maria Kopich. So I have each of them on one after the other, and yeah, and I'm really enjoying it. I have to say, it's really like we're doing now. It's really nice to see that the community's out there. We can all stay in touch and we can all enjoy great wine and share insights about it. So every Sunday on my channel, yeah, this is what you can expect basically. So yeah, you can just come and hang out. It's not too serious. There's no tasting notes. There's not too much swirling. It's just kind of chat, really.
Yeah. I have to say, I know this sounds really weird, but sometimes I really enjoy just watching people have a conversation. I know that's crazy.
Well, yeah.
I mean, maybe it's like the social distancing talking, but I just miss that social interaction.
Yeah. Okay, so someone is asking, where do we catch that? So you just catch it on my Instagram account, Amber Revolution. So the account that I'm on now, you just go there, 3 p.m. New York time or 9 p.m. European time.
Okay, I have a few minutes left, and you can answer this or you cannot answer this. It's totally fine. Back in 2018, when I first got the approval for National Orange Wine Day on October the 6th, as someone who's kind of already been in the trenches of the orange wine movement and you're well educated on everything, what were your initial thoughts?
About Orange Wine Day?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of, I was intrigued. I mean, I didn't entirely understand it because, first of all, and actually maybe you can answer this, but it actually made me think, wow, I actually have no idea, like, how do you create an official day for something? But I was kind of, to be honest, I looked at it and I thought, okay, I'm intrigued. I don't know about how you make something into a national day, but, respect. I mean, I think that was what was running through my head. But tell me, like, how does it become an official day? What process did you have to go through to make that happen?
Right. So there's this thing. It's called the National Day Registry, and you have to apply, and they get like 30,000 applications a year. Every year, 30,000 applications for people wanting different national days. So I went ahead, submitted the application for National Orange Wine Day because I was just like, how is it that Prosecco, Lambrusco, Chardonnay, Cabernet, red wine, Merlot, Sauvignon Blanc, how do all these wines have a day? And like orange wine, skin contact wines, the oldest style that I can think of doesn't have its own day. So I went ahead and I submitted the application, and I heard nothing for months and months and months. And then 1 month before I was hoping to have a National Orange Wine Day, they go, hello, Amanda, congrats. Your National Orange Wine Day and I'm just like, what?
It's so great. That's brilliant.
I know.
Well, I think
I really had like palpitations. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die.
It's brilliant. I mean, I love it. Well, I think all I can say, all I can continue to say really is respect and cheers, because it's great. And I'm kicking myself. Why didn't I think of that? But I'm glad you did it because, well, if nothing else, last year it gave me the opportunity to open a very fine bottle. So yeah, I think it's a great initiative. I love it, and as I'm sure you feel, anything that gives this venerable and wonderful style of wine more attention is a good thing in my book.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it was so crazy because they're like, oh, are you going to throw a party? And I'm just like thinking like, oh my gosh, I have like 1 month to do this. So I just did something like really small at, I don't know if you've ever been to Ruffian in New York City. Have you ever been there?
I haven't actually. No, not to Ruffian. No. Yeah.
So Ruffian is a very tiny wine bar that specializes in natural and orange wines in New York City. So for me, it was just like, it has the largest selection. It was like a natural pick for the first one. Only like 10 people came. It was very small.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Tiny. And then the following year, so this past autumn, I did like an in-store tasting with a bunch of like orange wine producers. So patrons could come in, they could sample different orange wines. I had merchandise for them to take for free. So that was kind of exciting. This year, I mean, I know we have like the coronavirus hanging over our heads, but I hope it goes away and we can do a week of orange wine. So I'm going to do a whole week of just consumer and trade events.
Yeah, sounds great. Well, hopefully, I mean, who knows by then, I hope that I can travel again so I can also do something, but yeah, it's yeah. Oh, I have let's be a very technical question coming from someone,
Oh,
but
okay.
that's Eddie saying, okay, maybe I'm gonna get a direct message about this if you're running out of time, but yeah. It is an interesting question, but it's a rabbit hole.
It's a rabbit hole?
Yeah, it's something we could talk about for a whole hour. Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Well, Simon, thank you so much for joining me. I can't tell you how much I appreciated you taking time out of your evening. I know it's a little late for you right now. It's probably about 10:30. So again, thank you so much.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you for asking me. Well, all I had to do is sit here and chat and drink this lovely wine, so I can't really complain.
So, where can people, before we go, where can people buy your book if they're interested in purchasing it?
Sure. So the easy way, if you don't want to think about it, is just you can find it on Amazon. It's easy. If you're in the US and you don't want to give Jeff Bezos any more money,
Right.
because he is the richest man in the world, then go to interlinkbooks.com and you can buy it direct from my distributor, and they will thank you for that.
Okay.
So yeah, so buy it from them. If you're in Europe, then you can buy it directly from my site, themorningclaret.com.
Themorningclaret.com. Okay,
Yeah.
so direct from the publisher, Amazon, if you don't mind giving Jeff Bezos money, or direct from the website. Got it.
Yeah. So interlink books. I'll put it in a comment right now. It is if you want to order it direct, and that will get to you quicker, I think. Yeah, that's for the US and Canada. Whoops, I'm trying to type it.
Yeah. Did I do it right?
Yeah, I think it's just interlinkbooks.com.
Interlink.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Amanda. It's been really, really, really nice, and well, I hope really nice to chat, and I hope one day that we'll be able to raise a glass and say cheers in person.
I am patiently counting down the days. Let me tell you, I can't wait for that to happen.
Fantastic.
Fantastic. Have a great evening.
You
Bye.
too. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. I tell you, I have been patiently awaiting to speak to Simon for like 2 years now. Like, talk about fangirl, right? Like 2 years now. So I am like, I'm still like over the moon right now. If you guys have any requests for upcoming weeks for Instagram lives where I do interviews or education sessions about different wine regions, send me a DM. I'm really friendly. I'm fun. I answer back. So I hope you all have a great evening. There's a lot of great events lined up. Make sure to check out the virtual tasting room at the virtual tasting room, and we have a full schedule of all events. I love you guys. Have a great day. Love ya.